I'm Louise Hicks of L. Hicks Consulting Services. Let me share with you some thoughts about a drug, Ritalin. Did you know that Ritalin can affect the brain of your child in a negative way? Let me show you what Ritalin may do to your child. Ritalin, the drugging of our children. Why are parents allowing their children to be drugged? Let me share a story about my life and my daughter who could have been a victim. What do you see here? A blank screen. When my daughter was 6 years old, I believe if I had given her Ritalin, she may have been similar to some children today who are totally unable to focus. Their minds are blank in many instances. This is my daughter, Crystal. Crystal could have been a victim. At the age of 6, when my son was diagnosed with cancer and went on to battle depression and drug addiction, Crystal began to act very erratic. She had very impulsive behavior to the point that she was taking my jewelry, taking it to school, and just giving it away to her friends. Fortunately for me, the principal of the school was on the playground that day and saw her just handing out my jewelry. And some of it was fine jewelry, but it didn't matter to her. She was only 6 years old and wanting attention that I was not able to give her at the time because my time was focused on my son, who had lost the reality of him being able to get through the cancer. But at 14, it's very difficult for anyone to go through such a devastating time in their life. As a result, I took my daughter and I decided before I give her Ritalin, based on what the school was telling me, I decided to do some research. I would urge every parent to do the same before you decide to just give your children Ritalin, because that's exactly what I did. And I found some disturbing facts about this drug, Ritalin. Who is protecting your child? Did you know that studies have shown that millions of our children are given Ritalin every year? And psychiatry has convinced the public that up to 20% of our children are mentally ill because of a chemical imbalance in their brain. Can you imagine millions of children being given this drug? There must be a reason behind this. I am 60 years old. When I was a child growing up, we didn't have Ritalin. We were allowed to go out and play and have fun because we know that children are full of energy. That's what I believe that children need to be focused on. We need to allow our children to be children. We need to start parenting our children. What is Ritalin? Ritalin is a drug prescribed to children for the treatment of attention deficit disorder and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, also known as ADD and ADHD. Did you know that research has led to the conclusion that Ritalin is one of the most dangerous drugs and additive substances known to man? Isn't that astounding and amazing? That is why before I gave my daughter Ritalin, I decided to do research, because I did not want my daughter to walk around with a blank in her mind, not being able to fulfill her destiny, not realizing and understanding that she's a child. She was only 6 years old. We had a family crisis. There was a reason behind her becoming the way she was. And she was not ADD or ADHD. What is ADD and ADHD? Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, referred to as ADD and ADHD, is a biological brain-based condition that is characterized by poor attention and hyperactive and impulsive behavior. ADHD, according to studies, can lead to poor functioning in school. It could lead to poor relationships. And according to these studies, it can lead to low self-esteem. My daughter had none of these symptoms of ADD. It was a family crisis. My son had cancer. He was only 14 years old. As a parent, it was very difficult for me because I was attempting to divide my time between a very critically ill son, a 6-year-old child that needed attention. That's very difficult for any family to face. But I still took the time out to be a parent and did the research before I decided to give my daughter Ritalin. Why do children behave the way they do? There are many reasons. Studies have shown. Sometimes it's because of boredom. In school, children do get bored because the curriculum is not often geared towards some of the children. Each of us has our own individual personalities and characteristics. Often it causes some children to get bored. It can also be due to family, poor parenting, a very energetic child. It can be due to allergies, environmental toxins, a poor home environment, poor matching between children and parents. But my situation was different. I added one, a family crisis. That's what happened in my life with my daughter. It was due to the family crisis of my son being diagnosed with cancer at 14. Oftentimes, as a parent, we need to take the time out and be a parent. Give some time to our children, some well-needed time to show them how much we love them, because children are very energetic. Ritalin has been shown to be a danger to many children. There are times, perhaps according to studies, where some children do have severe behavioral problems. However, studies have shown that many children that are given Ritalin do not need it because they are not ADD or ADHD. What are the health dangers of Ritalin? Did you know that studies have shown that between 1990 and 2000, there were 186 deaths due to Ritalin based on the FDA MedWatch program, which is a voluntary program. So can you imagine that there may be many more children who have died from Ritalin, and the statistics do not show that fact? Are there alternatives to Ritalin? Of course there are. Many children are very energetic. Therefore, we need to take notice of their diet. Perhaps we can cut out some of the sugars we're giving our children, some of the additives in the food, caffeine. All of these things are contributors to our children being more energized than they would normally be. Also, what about the environment? We may want to modify our environment for our children and give them a more conducive environment, a more routine structure in their lives. That can also help your child not to be so impulsive in their behavior. I am the author of this #1 bestseller, A Hill to Climb, a teenager's battle with cancer, depression, and drug addiction. I chronicle the struggles that we faced as a family. I also talk about my daughter and how I was advised by the school that she should be given Ritalin. If you want to learn more about this drug and how it can affect your child, by all means, pick up my book. It will provide to you astounding information on not only child behaviors and how I dealt with my child during this crisis, but any crisis, any struggle that you may be facing in your life. Also, I'd like for you to check out my website, www.aimed2purpose.com, where I provide information on my products and services, as well as my upcoming book, Aimed to Purpose. I'd like to share with you a quote from my son, Kenan Mason, who is a holistic alternative psychology practitioner. That quote is, "Inner peace is most powerful when your mental, emotional, spiritual, and physiological being is free." We all need to be focused on our own well-being. By focusing on our own well-being, we will be a much more productive, spiritual human being. That is why I'm urging parents, before you give your child Ritalin, please do the research and think twice before you allow anyone to diagnose your child with ADD or ADHD. My daughter today is an actress. She's healthy and she's happy at 21 years old. Just think, if I had given her Ritalin, where would she be today? Who knows? But I'm grateful that I didn't, because she's healthy and happy and pursuing her dreams, her aspirations, and her hopes, because I believe that your power lies within you. Let it loose. I am Louise Hicks of L. Hicks Consulting Services.